everyone, it's Chuck Hogan with Your Best Life, and welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV's channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure that you leave a comment and also a rating. The app is completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, as well as Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Well, we're so grateful to have you all with us tonight, and I get to welcome a dear friend and someone who hasn't just been a mentor, but literally a brother. Victor Ostrovsky is one of those guys, when you meet him in life, you're like, well, this guy is hilarious, and he's larger than life. When you start to get into his history, though, you start to realize not only is he an author, an artist, a publisher, he is also someone that lives his life at the highest level and is looking to expand on all the experiences that we actually call life. So give it up for Victor. Thank you for being here, my brother. It's so wonderful to see you. And I
great to see you, my brother from another mother. Chuck, it's great to see you.
Oh, likewise, my friend. It's always a blessing. Every time we have a conversation, every time I always leave feeling more elated and upbeat.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. So, Victor, you've had such a colored existence. I mean, you're a father, a grandfather. You are, an entrepreneur. You run a very successful online publishing, book company, and I'm curious to find out, with all of the things that are going on in your universe and all the different inputs that you have, not just here in the United States, but internationally. When we look at this thing where we're living, we just closed out January of 2024, if you can believe it. I mean, it's like we made it. We made it.
I can't believe I made it this far.
It's cool of us. I mean, they're like going, because based on all the things of when I grew up, and I'm sure when you grew up, it's like we drank out of hoses, we rode our bikes everywhere. We played outside till the lights came on. We did all these different things. By all accounts, we should glow in the dark or be dead at this point. I mean, it just, with everything that we've experienced, and yet here we are in 2024. And so for all of our viewers out there, I want to ask Victor this question. So I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to ask it on my behalf for the rest of you. And that is, what do you see that's so remarkable in 2024, Victor? Like when you look at life, where we've been, all the things that have gone on, what are some of the things that get you juiced about life as we're closing out the first month of this year?
I don't know if it gets me that juiced. This year seems to be a year of change. It's going to be. It looks like it's going to be a year of change in very many levels. There may be a betterment of the social networks, with the change that Congress and everybody else is pushing, and European countries are pushing, because it's like a Wild West over there, and they find ways and means to make money on the back of children and people that are less fortunate. And they feel very arrogant about it. And, so that's one thing. So that may be coming to not to an end, but to a better end. That's one thing. On the other hand, there's something that's coming up in the whole world, which can be very, very amazing and very scary at the same time. And that's AI.
Yes.
That would be this. I think that would be the central story of this year. Where does it go? It's not a question is will it be regulated? The question is, could it be regulated? Because
right. It's already
about the genie's out of the box. It's like I was about to write a book that's called The Helmet. I got a guy that has a gaming company. They make these games, video games. And he decides to make the next one, which is the best. And he does it with a helmet that has sensors in it, and you can use your brain instead of the keyboard or your device. And then they go to the next level and they implant the plant in the head. And it's going to be that's going to be the fastest thing. And you're really immersed in the game. And the big deal of the story is that once you're in the game, how do you get out?
Well, that's the whole thing. So when Spielberg made Ready Player One, it was one of those scenarios, right? So now we have the metaverse. We have, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook created Meta.
Yeah,
Well, you're supposed to have these personas and these different identities, these avatars. And part of the challenge becomes is that it's who are you within this space? It's literally like you can take and change any one of the personalities that are already existing within your being now, and then augment, embellish, and live in a completely different reality.
that's right.
Where, look, please.
And the speed in which it moves.
Oh,
I mean, we moved. I remember. I'm very old. I walked with Moses in the desert. I walked in with Joshua across the border. We went in to see if the 12 tribes where they're going to live. But to be honest, when I was a kid, you said, we were playing outside in the dark until the streetlights came up, and that gives us another hour to play until the mothers and the grandmothers started calling us in.
yes.
And then we weren't afraid to be there.
No.
But then not long after that, we stopped going out to the street because we would listen to radio, and it was like shows on the radio.
Yes.
And it's called The Curtain Is Up, which is the Masachole, which is an Israeli thing. It was like we were glued to the radio, and it used our imagination to hear things and to know things and to feel them. And we participated in listening. And then later quite quickly came television. The age between the radio and the television was rather short,
Yes.
compared to other developments. And after the television, then came the color television. Then came the bigger screen, and the more fast. And we forgot the street, we forgot the lights and the ball and everything else. And now we were glued to the television because it answered all our questions. We didn't have to think. We saw it. We enjoyed it. And now what I'm saying is the evolution is so fast moving from one thing to the next. Not long ago, a big screen television, a 90-inch television, was unheard of. And now you buy for $2.99, in Costco or whatever.
Oh, Walmart. I mean, they're like going.
And they got surround sound and whatever, and blah blah blah. You don't have to leave your house.
Well,
And the internet.
if you're watching us on Roku, you had to have a computer in order to have internet. Now it's on your television set and all the streaming services.
That's right. And not only that, but now comes with all this development. That's like the dark ages right now compared to what's going to be soon with the AI.
Oh yes,
because it thinks it not thinks faster. It now is going to start taking some identity, and you don't know what it's thinking. Now we're developing something that we know that we don't know what it can do.
Right. Well, and we gave it the ability to code. So
yes.
we said, hey, well, program, we're going to give you the ability to
program
ascertain your own programming. That's and right. To improve yourself. And that's from right. This came the fourth law, Asimov's laws of robotics. So we know the first three, right? That's like can't harm a human.
Yes. Can't do anything that can't harm a human. Can't respond.
You can't take it. So even another human can't tell you to harm another human.
Yes.
And then you, as an entity, can't harm yourself. You can protect yourself against harm, but as long as it doesn't conflict with the first two laws. That's now, right. The fourth law is that a robot or AI has the right to advance and grow.
Oh my God.
That's the fourth law, as long as it doesn't conflict with the first three. So here's where it gets very
dicey.
it gets dicey and sticky real quick. And that is, you're asking this program to increase its own efficiencies, so it's doing so. And you and I both know too, Victor, that everything has a cost. Everything.
Absolutely.
And if it's time, energy, intention, financial, whatever the case might be, there's some leveraging point. And it's not like a scale. It's actually more like the yin and yang, where it's like it's seeking synergy.
Circle, yeah. Percentage of the circle.
When it knows what its identity is. And this is the challenge. Because
Yes.
this thing has a billion, if not trillions, of different personalities.
Oh, yeah.
And
some of them are prejudiced. Some of them are prejudiced.
Sure.
Some of them are hateful.
And it's the cumulative intelligence of the internet. And so I will remind our viewers that not everything is vetted. Not everything you read on the internet is real.
No.
Wait, what, Chuck? I said, well, opinions, conjecture. Not everything has been edited to have the court of public appeal, where it's like it meets humanitarian rights, that it meets ethical guidelines. And so part of this is that anyone who is passionate, either pro-life or against life, for good or evil, because they don't look at it that way. They look at it that those are their beliefs, and that when someone else isn't in their camp, that there's encroachment. So we were having a conversation off camera earlier, and one of the things that came up is adversaries. And it's like, well, what's an adversary? Well, an adversary is someone that you have a disagreement with.
That's right.
Yet they don't have to be adverse in the reaction. Yet people get polarized when their belief systems get compromised. Well, here's the deal. We all have emotions that take control first over our rational mind. And people who are very skilled in body control oftentimes have overridden this process, where they don't react to the pain and pleasure principle. They are calculating, and they are, it's like playing chess,
They're
right?
manipulating the other side in their own way.
Yes.
Like a poker player.
And this comes to manipulating perception. It comes to manipulating emotional and chronological chain of events. It's even in the way that questions are asked, where it can actually start to make you think that I'm crazy, which my wife knows that is true. However, on the other side of that, there's also this, I could be a genius. And she goes, probably not so much. She still loves me though, so that's a good thing. So why do I go there?
I'll beg to differ. Not that she doesn't.
You stay out of this, man. I love you, brother. So part of this is that when we're talking about 2024, I agree with you, Victor. This is the year of change. And it's not like AI is new, by the way.
No, it's not new, but the point is, remember Hal,
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not new, but it's the fact that it may have its own opinion, because it derives, it has all knowledge.
Yes.
Because we put all the knowledge into the internet, and it has all the internet in it. So it has all knowledge. It read all the books. It knows all the history, it knows all the philosophies. It has an answer for you in 2 minutes.
In any language.
In any language, in any accent.
Yes.
And the thing is, what it knows how to read physics and everything else, and it can come to a conclusion very simple.
Yes.
When you give it an order, and if it will understand it the way it wants to. For example, you can say, save the world. Well, if a robot or the mechanical thinking is smart, it'll come to say, okay, to save the world, we have to eliminate the one thing that's very destructive.
The threat, right?
The humans.
Exactly.
They're the threat to the universe.
It's the only logical resolution. And to
That's
your
right.
point, it's that something that seems like such a innocuous question that's so simple actually has a simple result.
That's right.
but it's not the one that everyone's looking for.
That's
And
right.
so,
If
to your
I'll just interrupt you for a minute. Asimov,
please,
when you speak about Asimov, one of his first stories was about the tower. And this is a big tower that the Soviet Union and the Americans built together, and it contained all the power of all the armies and all the weapons and all the knowledge and everything in it. And they locked the door and they said, "You take over," to make sure that there's no more, the peace forever, like after World War One. So the president and the premier of the Soviet Union, they stand in front of the thing and they press the button, and they said, and the voice comes in and says, "What is your question?" So they look at each other and they say, "Is there a God?" The voice comes back and says, "Now there is." Now we're at the point where we're going to get back the answer. Now there is. This is
oh,
2024.
yep. It's an interesting reality.
Yes.
I look at it and go, someone was asking me and they said, well, how do you see the timeline? I said, very simplistically, I look at it as from a human nature perspective. Our entire existence has been predicated on making life in the perception of easier. And somewhere, easier started translating to valuable. And
Yes.
so I'll give an example. We live in an Amazon environment.
Yes.
Inarguably, we can be almost anywhere in the world and have goods and services delivered to us via Amazon,
Yes.
where in this grandiose, metaverse, Ready Player One environment, we clicked a button that automatically paid to a credit resource we had. And
Yeah.
now, in some instances, if I were to order it now, it would be here in an hour.
Yes. Or sooner.
Or sooner, depending on where the distribution hub is. We've had that
Yeah.
happen before. And so why do I go there? Out of this convenience, we started to, what we say is, democratize all the information. So when I was growing up, the computer was used literally as an interface to store data. That was
Yes.
it. So books, textbooks, programming, whatever the case might be. It was easy and everyone could have access. Well, at that time, there wasn't really a search engine other than to search under a category. So if it was English, art, history, mathematics, science. So it was very fundamental. And we were like, oh, it's just a glorified, Encyclopedia Britannica. I go, okay, that's a fair assessment. Had those as a kid growing up. Then we started going, well, if it can handle this information, all we have to do is increase the storage capacity. So law firms, where they used to have to take up floors and floors and floors of an office building because they had all of these case studies in books, family law, civil law, real
Absolutely.
estate law. So they had to have all these books. They had to have all these people to read the books to find the case studies. So they had all these paralegals. Well, in the span of the last 10 years, all these law firms went from having 40, 50 stories of a building to having 2.
Yeah. Still have the
Everyone's
same
working remote.
information.
The libraries, all online. You can pull up any of the case study information. Everyone can work from remote. The only time someone goes to the office is to use one of the conference rooms. Then they have shared private offices.
Yes.
It's like,
And more than that, and more than that, and now they can counsel online.
100%. COVID
Do
taught us,
that online,
right?
so you don't even have to go there.
So with enough pain, we create innovation. COVID taught us we don't even have to be next to each other. You're in the great Southwest. I'm in the state of Texas right now. We're communicating from our studios in our homes.
That's
And I
right.
go, isn't that beautiful? And yet I would pay $1 million to be able to sit down and have dinner with you.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
right? Because proximity and energy. So one of the things that's happened is, for the sake of convenience, so people, instead of going deeper in the relationships, Victor, will settle for connection, however that works. And visual has the highest modality out of the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. Out of VACOG, which is the 5 senses, they'll pick visual. Now we're hearing each other, and I can feel some of your emotion too, and I can hear the intensity in your voice and all of that stoic wisdom. And so, but the only reason why I appreciate this so much is because I met you in person. I've given you a hug.
Right.
You know,
That's right.
I know who you are. And that
That's
energetic resonance, we have not been able to duplicate yet. And this is the crazier part, because now with these suits and gloves and helmets and interfaces, we're going to
just a chip in your brain. That's all. A chip in your brain.
Oh, absolutely. And this computer can be overridden with enough.
And the porn industry is the biggest supporter of that.
Which one? I'm sorry.
The porn industry.
Oh, 100%.
That's their big thing now. The AI and everything else.
Well, and again, it's all about sensationalism and how do we get them hooked? Like, how do we get? Because it's funny you mentioned that, because we were driving from Houston back to Dallas yesterday, and we drove by, and there's this giant adult bookstore on the way. I didn't think about it. Julie goes, "Honey, how does that place stay in business?" And I was like, "I don't know. Now that you mention it." She goes, "Do people go in there?" And I go, "I don't know. Do people, because with everything being online now, is that where people are going?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't look at that stuff. You don't look at that stuff." But for some people, they are so committed to their lifestyle. So you mentioned this earlier, Victor, that it's kind of like with politics or with, I'll say, nutraceuticals, pharmaceutical drugs. There are more people hooked now on Ritalin and Oxycontin and ketamine and these different things that it's like, okay, why? Like, I don't like taking medication personally. I know that for some folks, they need to for different nuances in their life that they're dealing with. And I go, okay, food is pharmaceutical, the right portions, the right things. Too much sugar will affect you. Too much liquor will affect you. And then I started thinking about going, for people who are addicted to pot or nicotine and I said, I get it. They're very addictive, and they help with coping mechanisms because they have different responses in different people's neuroreceptors. We're not all the same. Like, I don't even know how I would respond to nicotine. I don't. I've never smoked. I don't know how I would respond to.
Don't try.
Pardon me?
Don't try.
No, I'm not going to. So, but this comes down to something that you mentioned, and that is there are so many people who are fearful of change. And
yet,
this year,
there's all change. It's all change.
Oh, it is. Because if you stand still, I guarantee you change is going to come and hit you in the caboose.
That's right.
Because it's happening with or without you. And
that's right.
So,
and the knowledge, the ability of the amount of knowledge in a single entity, it's like, it's endless. Is it, the question that I always have to ask myself is a laboratory in Denver that's working on a cure for something and using AI, is it the same brain that is working on a weapon system in Colorado, and it's AI? Are those two AIs related? Do they communicate between them? We don't know.
We don't. And this is what computer language.
And that's the biggest problem.
Right.
We're developing something we don't know anything about.
Well, and there was an argument against this. Someone was like, going, "Oh, how could that be? There's no language that speaks that way." And I go, "Well, we've heard and seen studies where children who are isolated by themselves, just had each other, created their own language. No one else could speak it, but they could speak it to each other, and they knew exactly what they were saying to one another."
Oh yeah.
So when you create sentient existence and there's a need to communicate, operating systems will find a way.
Yeah.
They'll find a way. And
Yeah.
that's what they're programmed to do, right? Because we're going,
And now
hey,
they're programming themselves to do more because they know what we
exactly.
need. They now it's not us telling them what we want them to do. It's them telling us what they know we know that we want.
Well, and
And
and to
that's
your point, like with election interference and proxy, I'll just say messaging that goes out. It understands Freudian psychology. It understands hypnotherapy. It understands neurolinguistics programming and the power of language.
that's
So
right.
if I say in the vein of X, create a propaganda profile that will slowly feed in a drip funnel the information so that I'm influencing this, this, and this. It's like, going, holy smokes, what are we doing?
And when you think about the election of the election of the previous elections when there was Russian interference, you look how we're only a few years away from this, and look how antiquated it looks now. Because what they
Oh,
had, they have bots that would go into social groups, and if it was a group of people that played, horseshoe, and they would also tell them that they're a horseshoe, whatever, and they become friends,
yep.
and then they would drop in political information, and then now you're getting it from a friend, so you're looking at it differently.
And it came in the form of a question as well. It wasn't
Yeah,
like, or hey, did you know this? Or I didn't know this, but I heard this. And so now it's like, it's inquisitive. So
yeah.
there's
Did you
no
hear what he said?
right.
Now it's gone to the next stage. It's 100 steps forward from
Oh,
that. That's
yes.
how to do it. Now it says not did you hear what he said? Listen to him, and it's not really him.
And you know who taught to do this? This is the crazy part. We did because we came up with Typeform and we came up with these things called surveys. And surveys are looking for different emotional cues that go along with your buying proclivity. This is where Amazon Web Services, this is where Facebook and all the large companies that are gathering analytics, your Android, your Apple device, your Siri, your Alexa. I said, these things are on all the time. They're listening to
Absolutely,
everything.
they're listening to everything.
Yes.
And
And they're gathering
who's
data.
they? And you don't know who they are.
No. So to your point, if it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, it's interesting because when you look at the democratization of like Twitter, and Elon Musk spent how many billions to buy it, and it's like, okay, why? It's simple. Influence. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. And they go, well, but it's the decentralization of influence. And it's like, okay.
What now?
So, well, right. So again, it's like, what can we use as an example? The Torah, the Bible. It's like, is that supposed to be the good, they call it the good books, right? Old Testament, New Testament. It's like, it's
Yeah,
the good book. And they didn't call it, oh, the nasty book, the devil book. They call it the good book. So there's a level of ethics and values. Now, part of that is perception, because there's a lot of violence and war, different stories in those, in those,
no, they're
uh,
horrific. The
pardon me?
Bible is the Old Testament is full of horrific stories. Of fathers killing their children, because they strayed in one way or the other, and people being burnt, and people being killed, and people being tortured, and whatever. But yet, it's a good book.
That's the title it was given. And I go, so
Yeah,
as someone who's been raised Christian, as someone who's been raised Jewish, as someone, my mother was Buddhist, it's there's all these different elements. And I go, which one's right, which one's wrong? And I said, yes. Like, well, you didn't answer me. I said, yes, because there's no right or wrong. The truth
yeah,
is that
absolutely true.
it's there's universal laws. And
That's
they go,
right.
oh, well, thou shalt not kill. And I go, okay, is it okay to kill if someone is harming your family? They go, oh, well, that's an exception. I said, well, no, 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 no. It's like there's these black and white scenarios. And I would just say, this is our conversation is very open and very elevated because there's no judgment. It's more so, let's really put out all the possibilities and see what is it that we're really dealing with in 2024.
Yeah, and the
We
answer, one of the answers to what you're saying is, if somebody kills somebody, and what do you do if you killed a relative or a family member of yours? What then? Well, the answer to that is, if you're defending yourself and killing him while he's trying to kill one of your relatives, that's one way of judging it.
right.
If it's after the fact and now you're going to take him to punish him,